Hi, it's Phoebe. Any criminal fans in the house? Fans of This Is Love? No? Okay, just me. It's Jonty here. I'm doing that real podcast thing where they do that bit in the beginning to tell you what's going to happen, and then you have the podcast proper. So you're still going to get the whole, like, hi, it's Jonty, it's Malky, etc. But we recorded this one at Greenbelt Festival. Thank you, Greenbelt Festival, for just doing such a wonderful job. 2023 Festival, just wonderful and beautiful and affirming and healing and glorious and, just such a good time. And these are our thoughts about it. So that's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear some of the vibe of the Tiny Tea Tent, which is an institution at Greenbelt, and I assume other festivals. I have no real idea. And I am not prepared to do any research. So we'll be talking a little bit about the stuff that we saw, what we thought of the festival, and we recorded this on Saturday night. So we have done some subsequent stuff about what happened on Sunday. And just what the vibes were and what we thought about that. So that's all coming up, but just to explain that there are going to be some slight differences. Anyway, thanks for listening and welcome to Beer Christianity. Hey, welcome to Beer Christianity. My name is Jonty.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Malky.
And we are coming to you from the Tiny Tea Tent.
Ooh, tiny tea.
So tiny.
so tea-y.
Stools.
Yeah.
Drinking out of acorn cups.
It does have that vibe. Describe the scene for the listeners.
There's a lot of what I can describe as scarves. I don't know, are they scarves? Just like bits of big fabric. They're quite bigger than scarves, really, from the ceiling. Fairy lights, lots of candles, bunting, probably somewhere. It's small, it's vibey. It's a big wagon with tea.
And we are at the Tiny Tea Tent. I just did that to see Jonty's eyes. We are live from Greenbelt.
Yeah, so cool from Greenbelt. And we're doing just a quick little episode from Greenbelt. This is pre-us recording, pre-us meeting anybody who listens officially, although we have met one person. So Esty, hey, nice, shout out to you because we met you already.
So nice to meet you. We can't believe that you came to Greenbelt because of Big Christianity. That's crazy. But we love that you did.
Yep.
This is a sight joke, Malky, so they're not saying anything. It's super funny to us.
Only the true Beer Christianity experience. Whatever interaction you have to have Malky just not caring. Yep.
But I did say to Esty that when I found out that she came to Greenbelt because she'd heard about it on this podcast, and her friend said, "Oh, what podcast? Oh, Beer Christianity." Then I was just like, okay, I'm changing my LinkedIn profile immediately to influencer. So we're all comfortable with our new roles as influencers.
I think so. Yeah, wearing that mantle.
Yeah, we've influenced at least one person.
Yeah, that fits the bill. That's exactly what an influencer does.
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah,
it's a real thing. So it is Saturday night, is that right?
No. Yes?
Yes.
It is Saturday.
And I like the way you move.
Pretty baby.
Oh, that's Whitfield. I know this.
10 points.
So, what are our thoughts on what the best stuff has been so far?
So my favourite so far has been Josie Long.
Yeah.
She was at the Playhouse doing her stand-up set. Although, I think we missed out. I think her set's she's probably done an hour, but I think it was tight. She was aware of having to stick to the hour, and she on the fly had to chop some material. She was improvising, but she was really, really good. And also, I was in that weird position where I was a big fan, and then got these guys along, and my wife and Jonty's wife. So I had the feeling of if this is shit, Malky, this is your fault.
It does feel like you described me as your wife and Laura as my wife, so she's my wife's wife, is that the...
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And to be clear, we went because we were like, Malky will want to go to this, so we should go to this. So, and it came through.
That's nice. Yeah, she paid off.
I mean, I went because I was worried it was going to be raining. So I was like, this is undercover and it has seating. So I'm in. What did you love about it?
I've been a fan for a long time. I've seen her before. a number of years ago, doing a gig in Leicester Square Theatre, I think. But she is kind of the ilk of Stuart Lee, kind of. She was kind of moved in those circles. And I think she's similar age to me, which is wild. Like, she started gigging when she was like 17. But she's great, like, just very left wing and very authentic, and seems like all over the place. But as Jonty mentioned, like, her set is just so tight. There's no fat on it, and yeah, so like weaves together, just very funny and super earnest, and getting across some great points.
And funny and earnest is not always that's not always things that kind of live like really well together. Laura, what did you think about it? What was it that you liked about it?
Yeah, I loved how, like, I think you're right of how, like, kind of true she was to herself, and like what makes it funny. Like, she's not going to shy away from the fact that she actually says it like a socialist, and like it's still very funny, like the ways that she talks about it, in that like she's a socialist but she describes herself as a bit of a bougie socialist, which is brilliant and just like great. And just the way she talked about her ADHD as well was just very funny, of just like, it's a surprise to no one, and just like walking around the stage like, hey, yeah, just very funny. And I think I just like that she clearly found the crowd very enjoyable. Like, there were moments where the crowd would be like joining in with her doing stuff, and she'd be like, this is the first time that's happened, or like when she talks about ads and there's people singing the autoglass replace ad to her, and she's like, that's great, like genuinely laughing on stage at that, and which was just so fun. And it was fun to see her riff off of just what was going on, and just, yeah, she's great.
And she also, she's been to Greenbelt a few years ago. She grew up going to church. I think her kind of parents are Christians. So yeah, there was that sort of knowing nod, and she kind of felt at home and sort of got the subculture, like, which was just a nice vibe. And she came out.
Quakers was very good. And like, she was like, "Who here's a Quaker?" And then a few people cheer, and then she's like, "No, wrong."
I just love that she came out and was just like, I just love seeing all these like nice left-wing Christians. I was like, yeah, man, that's the vibe. Because I have a lot of like left-wing friends and progressive friends who I think would have such a great time here, and they're put off by the Christian thing. But I mean, like, do you think somebody would be alienated by being here if they weren't a Christian, or had some like serious issues with Christian? I mean, most of the Christians here have serious issues with Christianity, but like, yeah, I mean, like, do you get that vibe? Like, you would have a great time here if you could just get past that branding.
And I think what is so nice, and what I have seen time and again, this Greenbelt particularly, are kind of secular people, like non-Christian people, going up the front and being like, hey, I love coming here. I love that you're all so welcoming. You guys are doing great. You guys are amazing. I feel so welcome here. I feel so loved here. Which, like, if the church is meant to do anything, that seems like it should be what the church is doing, Like, I find that like lovely, and that's the sort of vibe that I think, non-Christian people maybe wouldn't get, because I think I have similar people in my life who I'm like, I really feel like you would dig it here, but I know that the Christian thing is going to be a barrier for you. But it's like, okay, but if you just like let yourself in and experience it, you'll really see that that's not a problem at all. Like, it's fine, and it's like welcoming in a way that is not there to like welcome you in with one hand and then put a tract of the gospel in your hand with the other one. It's like, come here and be here, and we'll love you, and like that's what we'll do, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just it's making me rack my brains for mates that I have who are left wing and not Christians. But I think I can think of a couple, maybe online friends. But yeah, I would just be total chill. I think, like, I mean, I grew up with part of the trauma's a big word, but like just the feeling of heavy cringe hanging over me that I was a church kid, and like, yeah, all that. So like, and also the burden of needing to quote unquote save my friends or invite them to church shit or whatever, and just feeling like, oh, that's so embarrassing and awful. But I feel like, I could, and it's even a weird thing. Is this something you can invite your non-Christian friends to? Just that whole phrasing is quite alien to me now. But yeah, I could bring my normal mates here, and it would be fun. And like,
and it's like exactly what you've just kind of said. I can imagine people being threatened by that kind of phrase, almost of like, oh, you should come to this Christian festival, because like I imagine so many people have been burned by that sort of thing in the past, of like, oh, you should come to this thing, it's great, like, but and
surprise, you're in a queue to be baptized.
Yeah, literally, like I kind of don't blame people for not wanting to come to it when we say that they should.
Yeah.
It's so weird because I feel like I wish you would come here because of all the stuff aside from the faith stuff. Like, it's so different from one of those ones where you would be like, oh, you know, I wish you would come here so that you could get a taste of Christianity in the right kind of way. You know, it's not like that. It's not like, oh, well, I hope that, you know, you came here and you could accept the gospel and all that. Except I think if you did come here thinking, I'm just going to come for the politics, I think you get such a positive witness along with it, because these are people who care about injustice. These are people who care about, you know, making the world a kinder, better place. You know, like, generally speaking, I mean, obviously there's douche nozzles everywhere, but like, you know, the vibe of the festival is very much that, no?
Yeah, I think it's just so inclusive and accepting that I can imagine someone coming along to, like, so I also saw Jack Monroe today, who is a classic example. Like, they talked about having a faith or something that's developed. They've been in a 12-step program, and a sort of higher power or reliance on God has developed out of that in a kind of, you know, they use the term journey a lot. And also just the main thing of tackling food poverty and that social justice element is just something interesting, important, that people would find intriguing and want to get on board with. And also there's a kind of faith thing there, you know. But yeah, I think the kindness thing, and I think that vibe is talked about, and it's almost like I've heard a few people from the main stage like joking about it, almost like kind of how like lovely everyone is. But yeah, that's a win.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And speaking of people who were talking about kind of Christian allyship to things that maybe Christians are not always thought of as that, you saw Jolyon Mom from the Good Law Project, Laura, and he was saying something about the Christians being...
Yeah, so he's from the Good Law Project, which is kind of a law campaigning kind of group, and yeah, like the first thing he kind of said when he got up on stage was kind of like, you know what, thank you guys, I'm an atheist, but like I just really want to thank the church for what they have done in the justice like and law like area. Like people are like, I'm so thankful for all of you and like what you have done, really, which I find that really nice. It's especially like, I think, like, you know, having Dawkins here last year and that kind of vibe of like, well, it's the atheist versus the theists and but it's like, actually, like, we can get along and appreciate what the others are doing, and like at no point, as like there would never be, I think, at this kind of festival would there ever be a question from the audience of being like, okay, but like what about, you know, the faith and the justice? Like, no, like nobody would ever bring that up, and I think that's fine, you know, like we can live in balance together and appreciate what the other one does, and that's okay.
And in case you've never been and you're not sure what it's like, it's not all kind of very earnest talks about food insecurity or holding the government to account in terms of... Well, wait, what was the Good Law Project guy saying about what they do?
So he was talking a lot about how the law is kind of meant to be this neutral force in our world that we can depend on, but that how much that actually really is not, and is very much just kind of in the hands of whoever is in power, and is very much bent towards the people in power, so much so that actually, so the Good Law Project are kind of a campaigning group. They have their own law firm as well, and they are kind of there to be able to defend that they've been defending climate protesters as well as an example, I think, and Jolyon himself has been under personal attack from members of the Conservative Party currently in power, including Rishi Sunak, who I don't know when this was, but he released a press release essentially damning the Good Law Project which named Jolyon personally 10 times, and since that has come out, they have not been allowed to run a single case. And there have been, just multiple examples of judges kind of quite clearly ruling in favour of just being on the side of the people in power, regardless of what the situation is. And just that was it's interesting. And I loved actually that there were so many people who actually stood up in that talk and were like, you guys are giving me hope, like I'm really glad that you guys are doing what you're doing. I feel so glad that you're here, and I find real hope in what you're doing, because I would feel like I was just out there being like, man, like how can you even, how do you have hope in the face of that, because that must be heavy.
Absolutely. Malky, who have you seen who is not... Wait, actually, tell me what Jack Monroe was saying first.
So it was a really good wee conversation that they were having, kind of going through some stuff that they've been through, like there's a lot of Twitter hate has been directed at them, and then a lot of talk just personally about their journey through, like, with class and activism, and the fact they started writing and campaigning from a place of being like pretty poor and struggling, and on that line, and just how can you cook and feed yourself and your family on a low budget, and now they're doing like alright, like maybe like on a decent wage, still not mega bucks, but that's part of the hate that's come at them from like owning a couple of nice things, which is just fucking wild. Again, like the rich and the powerful dividing us and turning us against each other, tabloids whipping up nonsense rather than actually focusing on the bad guys. But I just love Jack's compassion. Like, they were asked about processed foods and stuff, because that's an angle that some people can come at in terms of how can we do food better and be more nutritious for kids and that. And Jack was just full of like compassion and empathy for like women escaping abusive homes, or someone who's severely disabled, or some carer coming into someone's home and they've got 10 minutes to make them a meal. Like, sometimes processed food like works for that person. Yeah. You've got like, let's not demonize folks that depend on that, or just that's the easiest, quickest option in a life that's squeezed in every other way. But that's just one example how she just really kindly dealt with issues in a very compassionate way that was surprising.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like as well, when you move in a space where there is a lot of rhetoric about food and what we eat, I think, but in a kind of, things like veganism, vegetarianism are really popular in the spaces we move and things like that, and it's so easy to kind of shame people for like the ways they do and don't eat things. And I get it a lot as someone who's been vegetarian for like over 10 years. I find a lot of people who are like, say to me, it's like, oh well, you're not gonna like that, like, I'm really sorry about like that, I'm eating this and stuff like that, and I'm like, it's fine. Like, I'm not here to, like, I think it's a result of a lot of people who just jump down other people's throats by not even just like it's not just the kind of exact diet, but it is often the kind of like organic versus processed and stuff like that. Like, why? And like, it's fine. Like, people do what they can do. Like, why would I ever shame someone for what they're going to eat? Like, it's none of my business. Like, and it's not. Unlike, when you're eating kind of more like organic and like healthy foods, I sometimes, if I can, will try and buy from kind of more sustainable food shops. I don't do that regularly because I'm lazy mostly. But like, they are more expensive. But like, if I can afford it, then I'll spend a bit more. But like, they are more expensive. So like, I'm not expecting everyone to suddenly spend like this amount of money on like a food shop, because like, not people can't afford it. And like, let's all just be chill. Can we just be chill?
Okay, so in terms of being chill, what is the chillest thing you've seen so far here? It doesn't have to be an act. It just could be, something you've walked past. I've just seen, I had the chillest conversation today. I was in this very tea tent I was meant to be meeting you, Laura, but it was raining, and I was like, and I got into conversation with this dude in his 70s, I think, or maybe 80s, and he was talking about his time working in various parts of Africa, but he was also talking to me about the courgettes he had grown in his garden and the tomatoes that brought. His wife was telling me the recipe for her homemade hummus. It was just such an unbelievably chill morning, which was just a beautiful thing. Very kind of nice multi-age festival vibes. It was, yeah. What have you got?
I think I can't remember the full name, but Justin Adams and Mohammed somebody whose name I can't remember, but we can put in an episode description or tweet it or something, who, I mean, you're going to be able to explain this better than I can, but it was kind of Sufi kind of music?
Yeah, Sufi music from Morocco, and the dude playing the thing is he's a master of it.
Yeah, so you have to do an oral apprenticeship for 20 years, I think he said, in this particular style of music. But it was it was kind of mixed with blues, and it was just really fun and really chill and vibey, and it was again one of those things where it's I think if it was you or Diana saying it earlier of we were all in the tent, but it started raining and there's people outside who were just well, I'll just put my poncho on and just put my umbrella up and I'll just keep singing along and clapping along, and it's just very chill. It's just nice to just sit and listen, and there's no pressure, and it's nice.
I think, right, I'm going to name an event, and it feels like the title of the event would come as the climactic moment in fake sponsor content. Spoken word. I said it wrong. Walking sport.
Oh my word. Fuck off, Malky. Get out.
We can edit that. Start the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Walking sport.
We're not going to do that.
Walking sport. Hosted by Harry or Chris from Harry and Chris. Which I say as a joke. Harry, right?
Harry. It's Chris Baker. He's great. Yeah.
No.
Harry Baker.
Friends of the show and regular listeners.
You've seen him live?
Yeah. I know, I didn't know.
Multiple times.
I knew it was Harry, one of Harry or Chris.
They don't make it easy.
I had this long conversation with them a few weeks ago where they were just talking about how even their relatives get it wrong.
Very much Ant and Dec vibes, isn't it? But anyway, Walking Sport. As an event.
Just gets I got it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go now.
Yeah, that's me done. It's an event where people speak words and sometimes they rhyme. And I'm going to read the names of the two people that were featured: Erin Bollins and Toby Campion. I can read also. This is just excellent. Anyway, they were real good, and that felt chill in terms of. I'm going to take your question and say it was chill in the soul, because there was just a lot of cool self-acceptance, exploration, expression of who they both are. Erin and Toby were both really wicked. So yeah, I like that.
What about Harry though? Did he suck or what?
Well,
God news.
that was. I heard his reintroduction. I mean, he's great. That's in the bank. He's got that with me, and I heard Harry and Chris together. Yeah. So I would have heard one of them. But I left early because I needed to join the queue. I needed to have a wee, get some noodles, and join the queue for what's her face, Josie Long.
This is very important information.
It's very important because it's the reason that I didn't really hear much of Harry or Chris's content.
Okay. To be clear though, Harry and Chris were delightful and then they were main stage, and I love that they draw in maybe the biggest crowd I think at all of Greenbelt. Is everyone has to go to see Harry and Chris. We all have to sing all of the words to the songs, and it's just so fun. We love them.
It's such a quintessentially Greenbelt thing, because where else are you, and people who are new here must be what is happening?
I don't get it.
I have never.
And I didn't quite realise, because it's the 50th anniversary of Greenbelt. Whoop whoop. So there's lots of references to that, and Harry wrote a poem about his reflections over the year, and he's like a Greenbelt baby. I mean, I don't think he was conceived here. I don't know
You
that
don't
it
know.
wasn't.
Yeah, 50 years, it could
But
happen.
yeah, he went as a child with his family and all that. Because I see this as like, I've grown up in a weird Christian atmosphere. I left home, went on my adventure, and found this radical place. So for me, that's what Greenbelt is to me. But like, some people grew up here, coming here with their families, and we're used to this level of progressivism and inclusivity. Although saying that, mentioned Greenbelt to my mum, and mum and dad came here back in the 70s or whatever.
My dad also, he came here and saw the Proclaimers, as he likes to tell me often.
I mean, I've seen the Proclaimers here. I was horrified.
It was a different time though. They've been twice. They might have been great the first time.
This is what people say about apartheid. That's not an excuse. I'm sorry. It's not. You don't get away with those kind of crimes.
It was great the
Or
first
apartheid. Yeah. No. No. The coming here as like a new country that you come to in your faith is like a very real thing for me. But back in the day, I think it was again a very fresh kind of space from what we've heard from Paul and from what I've read and stuff. Like a very fresh space for Christians to come to, but because they were embracing contemporary music or they were embracing art or they, and maybe not as, focused on progressivism as they are now, but still I think you speak to a lot of people about it, they're like, oh yeah, I think a lot of people who've done the deconstruction but not come to Greenbelt recently are like, I don't know about that, it's very Christian. So we loved Harry and Chris. We also loved Grace Petrie.
Yes, we loved her.
What do we love about her?
So funny. I mean, like, her voice is amazing, and like she's a great singer-songwriter, but also just so funny. Like, just great. Just talking about how she was first. I mean, like, also just loving the crowd at Greenbelt. Like, she is a Greenbelt vet, and just was like, I love you guys so much, and just like, and she was saying that like when she first got the email to inviting her to come to Greenbelt, she was like, "You're a Christian festival. You do know that I'm a big old lesbian." And then she was like, but then I got here and realised loads of you are big old lesbians. I was like, yeah, it's just great. And she just loves the crowd. And she, bless her, was there. So she was on before Indigo Girls, and Indigo Girls had finished their set, and she was still outside the merch store meeting fans and saying hello, and we went to say hello, and she was just the sweetest, and we loved her very much.
Yeah, she was so nice because Laura and I both really wanted to hear a song, that she'd written about some ex-girlfriend, and it was a little bit of heartbreaky, and then she did this long thing about, well, you never hear the other person's side, and so, a lot of my back catalogue is kind of, she didn't say toxic, but there was kind of the vibes, and we were just like, yeah, that's fine, but we want to hear it, right?
Yeah, but like also, hello, like, it's a good song.
Cold Waterproof Jacket, if you haven't listened to it. Man, if it doesn't bring tears to your eyes, you have not had the same relationships we have. What did you like about her?
So I was a total noob. I was unaware, and I was like, oh, what's happening here? And she seemed a bit shouty to start with. But her patter won me over of just the bants. And then, as you guys say, she won the crowd with just like guttural protest song vibes of just like, let's fuck shit up. And the Greenbelt punters love that.
Yeah. And the whole vibe, I love because they're such catchy songs, but also she's so winsome. She's so like charming and
such a performer. Like, she is a performer. It's not just the singing and the writing. Like, it's the performance.
Yeah.
Which is just great.
In a just world, she would be absolutely platinum huge.
Yeah. I read something of that she, I think, wrote it recently. I can't remember where, about how she's getting really frustrated at people not putting her on stage but inviting her for panels. So she'll be invited to festivals to talk about what it's like to be a queer woman in music, but not to play, which is just like, get her to, like, what are you doing? Get her to play.
Also, her songs are fucking incredible, man. Like, yeah.
It's bizarre. Yeah.
That's very good. Okay, what else have we seen? What else have we liked? Have you guys seen anything else other than this? Oh wait, Laurie, you've been killing it. You've been all over the place. What else have you seen?
See Marika Rose talk about the theology for the end of the world, which was super cool, and just kind of about how we need to not be kind of dealing with the symptoms of toxic systems in our world, but dealing with the root of the problems, and need to recognize how the church has been complicit in enabling systems of racism and sexism and capitalism. What? I know. It was a shock to me.
How long has this been going on?
I know. We need to take it back to the source. I need to report to head office. It's been going on for too long. But no, she was really great. I also saw John Bell. He was great. We saw David Dark, who was also a sweetheart. And
I believe his name is James Black. What? No.
His name is David Dark.
Okay.
And his talk was entitled White Supremacist Antichrist Poltergeist, which was just that. I mean, that alone was encouraging us to go to the talk. But yeah, talking about how he has had to kind of grapple and unlearn his kind of Tennessee white boy growing up childhood, and how he kind of sees that as like a poltergeist that you have to exercise from your life, which I think is cool, but also just the sweetest man.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah. And so smart. And he was exploring in a very you can feel the academic rigor underneath it, but just in a very accessible way what whiteness is and what it means and what it does to you. And not in a weirdly, you just don't feel particularly attacked, and he addresses that feeling of being attacked and what that means and kind of the defensiveness that comes from it and all that kind of stuff. But just, I don't know, it's just very smart, very cool. Yeah, we're hoping to see a little bit more of him this festival.
He's on tomorrow, so we'll be seeing it. Talking about we become what we normalize, I think is his talk. So excited for that too. And I bought his book today. His book is called Life's Too Short to Pretend You're Not Religious. So that'll be fun.
This is a great title.
Yeah.
Malky, what else have you seen?
Well, I think I have undiagnosed ADHD, so I'm going to come back to something that Grace Petrie said and also tie it in with what Josie Long was on about.
Love it.
Surprise to no one.
Because I'm gonna try and quote a line, but I'm gonna misquote it, no doubt. There's been just some really cool stuff about being losers, being on the losing side, and I think the line from Grace is something about I was on the losing side, but when they lay me down, they can say at least she tried, or something, which I think is just beautiful. And that was the similar vibes from Josie as well, just about and the lack of compromise, especially where we are. I'm thinking especially with the Labour Party at the moment of maybe we can do tiny incremental shit. I mean, fucking even now it's not even tiny incremental.
I mean, Keir Starmer's I think that's too much.
Yeah, but yeah, even the sort of quote unquote reasonable people, the adults in the room, okay, let's do some manageable slight change. And I love the zero tolerance that I've felt at Greenbelt of just fucking no.
Yeah.
Trans rights are human rights, for example. Let's stop fucking about. That is not, let's go for it. Let's look for equality. Let's bring climate justice. And this is just, let's stop having the debates or the false two sides balance debates. And we know what's right. Let's crack on and do it. And again, that came up with Jack of the fact that they've been producing or pointing to the same reports, or the government have done another subcommittee about something. And it's yep, the results are the same. We could solve child hunger if we wanted to, but we're just deciding not to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say the trans rights thing, I think from at least 3 stages I have had people just being support your trans siblings, 4 even, I think, because Harry and Chris as well, of just everyone being so supportive of yep, this is the situation we're in, we all need to be there to support people, but also yeah, I think that the non-compromising of we need to stop having the debates, this is all bad. And yeah, I described it earlier as the experience of coming to Greenbelt, I think, is a reigniting of it's oh man, yes, I believe this shit, everyone else around me believes this shit, this is so great to be surrounded by these people and this rhetoric, and it's so. And I think I have not felt despairing of it yet today so far this weekend. Of like, it's been filled with like, it's just the buoyed hopes of like people together. It's just wonderful.
And without feeling like a bubble, like when you used to go to like a kind of Christian conference and you'd be like, this, I feel great because it's safe and nobody else is questioning any of this kind of stuff. Like, it's very much focusing on, wow, it's rough out there, and yet still so encouraging.
Yeah. I was just agreeing with you. I had nothing else to add.
I was just...
Mic drop. Don't stop us.
Okay, so for people who've never been to Greenbelt, we've done this a number of times, but what would you say to them about, and Christians, non-Christians, the Grace Petrie thing, the thing that stood out to me from the festival so far.
No one is surprised.
Hey, I was diagnosed, also somebody in the Josie Long thing was like, I was diagnosed in the 90s, which is a miracle. I was diagnosed in the 80s.
Diagnosed as a girl in the 90s, which is
as a girl in the 90s, that is different. Okay, fair. Yeah, boys, they were just handing out drugs like sweeties to us.
To the Ritalin vending machine.
100% that. No, but Grace's song, where what is the line? It's like the images that fucked you were a patriarchal structure, and she says, okay, I'm gonna need you guys to sing the second line, and she says the images that fucked you, and the crowd just goes, we're a patriarchal structure, and she's like, oh wow, you guys all know the song. And it's this whole kind of chorus and refrain about like, we're not going to be trapped by weird gender binaries or a narrow binary of what gender or sexuality is, and it's just, and you got this crowd of mostly Christians singing along incredibly passionately with this queer singer-songwriter up on the stage, and it just felt so unbelievably good and lovely and wholesome and affirming and a wonderful witness and just very kingdom, It was nice.
A similar but maybe slightly less powerful was Josie Long earlier, who was kind of a couple of times was like, I don't know how this is going to go down with this crowd. I don't know how you guys are going to take this, but I've been doing some meditation. I think it was at the Buddhist center, which was maybe why she was like, well, it's not going to go down well, but it's like, yeah, okay. Like, have you seen where you are? Like,
Laura and I nearly tripped over 10,000 people doing yoga on the lawn.
we came around the corner of the tiny tea tent about 9 o'clock yesterday morning. It was just like, whoa. It was like, about 100 people doing all with the arms in the air. I was like,
It was terrifying. It was
like they had crept up on us. It was like, it was a sudden, where have they come from? Hello. It's funny.
But anything else to say to people who have not been, but who might come one day?
Well, I always, like with Grace as a prime example, you kind of scribble down your favourite people that you want to see, like tomorrow. Tomorrow is, I've got a hip hop boner for Loki and Charlie 2NA. I'm very excited to see them, and also Laura Mvula, who's I think starting right now, but John T's hell bent on holding me back from seeing her.
Just trying to make you. No, I can't. I won't be mean on the podcast.
Anyway, thing is, every time I've come to Greenbelt, I've always discovered a new artist that I'm like, yes, they're awesome, and I'm going to not take away the artist with me. That's frowned upon.
He has actually picked Grace up. She's in his pocket right now. It's very alarming.
I would say don't let what you think of the festival hold you back from coming to the festival. Like, whatever you think it's going to be, it's probably not what it's going to be. So you should come anyway. If you're even vaguely thinking about maybe it'll be fun, you should definitely just come, because it will be fun and you'll like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Come try it out. It is different. It is good. It is.
And just come for the day. If you're really not sure, come for the day. Choose a day and just come.
Yeah. And stroll into things that you don't know anything about. That I think is the best thing. It's just kind of stroll around, check the stuff out. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to let Malky go to Laura and Vula, and maybe we'll do that as well.
It's a little while till we have to go to Immerse with Wilderthorn. So
that's true. We're going to go to Immerse and maybe to the Glitter Ball. It's all happening. And is the History of Drag on tonight as well?
I think we've missed the History of Drag. It happened. It started at 8.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're dedicated. That's what we did for you, listener. We gave up the history
way before we started recording.
We sacrificed. Never have three of us sacrificed so much for you. Okay.
And we're looking forward to meeting all our friends tomorrow.
Yeah, we are. I mean, you're going to hear this way after, obviously, we've done that. But yeah, here's hoping that we will meet some people who listen to the show and we can hang out and have a pint. And I'm going to do Beer and Hymns. Beer and Hymns is so nice.
I'm so excited for Beer and Hymns. It is my favorite.
Go to the Jesus Arms, sing a bunch of old hymns, drink. Marvelous.
I am excited to sing the Descant to Hark the Herald Angels Sing. No. How's it go? I'm not going to do it in the middle of the tiny tea tent. Sing it. No. You'll have to come to Beer and Hymns tomorrow.
Okay.
Reader, I did go to Beer and Hymns and I had a fantastic time. Actually, that was probably one of my highlights. Anyway, that's all we recorded at the Tiny Tea Tent, and we were then there on Sunday, and Sunday was incredible. Sunday we got to meet some of the fans, which I think Malky and Laura speak about, and that was really, really cool. We say fans. You never identified as fans. You just said you listen to the podcast sometimes. Actually, I mean, you did, but that's not even, we just said come and meet us. I mean, there could have been people who just didn't. Anyway, it was really lovely to meet you. The guys who were there know how big it was. If you weren't, I just want you to imagine like Wembley with like Queen or Live Aid or that kind of, it was very similar to that. But we did that, which was lovely, after the Beer and Hymns. And Beer and Hymns was just divine in the true sense of that word. I love it every year, but this year I loved it particularly. I loved the boyfriend of a friend of ours who brought his own hymn book, which was just incredible. I loved the raising our glasses in the air to punctuate it. I loved having a buzz on while worshipping, and I think I need to do that more. Just have a cup, just pre-game church maybe, or something like that. I think that'd be great. It's just so cool because you're worshipping, but you're also enjoying just the old schoolness of it, which has a little bit of irony in it, but not really that much. And I don't know, nostalgia, and it was just beautiful. A whole bunch of stuff we missed after that, or I missed after that. I know Malky and Laura will tell you some of the things that they saw. Saw a little bit. I didn't see Loki, admittedly, but Malky really loved Loki. And then, judging by what it said on the stage, like behind it, there was a big kind of like graffiti logo. I think it said Chazinga. Which is weird because the dude seemed really cool. So to be like in some way referencing the least funny sitcom of all kind from at least like the third season anyway, it was just a bit weird. But that was Charlie Tuna? Charlie 2NA? Tuna? I don't know. Anyway, he was amazing. He was so freaking cool and just really cool old school hip hop vibes, which I enjoyed deeply. And then we had to pack up our tent and go. So I spent quite a lot of time doing packing. My wife just being a small pit pony, carrying all the stuff up the hill, because by that point my back was fucked, which was really fun. But we got all the stuff done, and we got Laura's stuff up there as well. And then we came back, and I was like, cool, I'll just have a very chill kind of afternoon, maybe have a few drinks, see a few people, maybe see a couple of things. I wanted to see the Becoming a Weirdy Beardy Kind Old Elder, because pretty close, let's be honest. Maybe not kind, but you know, the rest of it. And then the festival director, who you've heard before, Paul Northup, messaged me and said, hey man, do you want to introduce Ezra Furman on the main stage? And I was like, let me have a think, and said to my wife, no, that sounds very stressful. And she was like, don't be a bloody idiot, just do it. And I was like, okay. And I was very glad that I did, but it was quite stressful. And I spent quite a lot of the rest of the time, you know, just worrying, like, am I going to fuck this up? Am I going to misgender her on stage? Am I going to say something incredibly cringe? Also, because I'm really critical of compares on stage at festivals. So I feel like this was the Lord punishing me with a blessing, which is, you know, Is that how he does it? I feel like that's bad theology. But yeah, I didn't meet Ezra backstage because she was like very much getting in the zone and didn't want to interrupt. But afterwards, Laura and I went up and met her. And the whole performance was just incredible. I just had the best time. It was very alternative. And I told a whole bunch of people to go, kind of promising it was quite, accessible and catchy, thinking perpetual motion people, a lot of that kind of almost doo-woppy stuff. But she just played the set that I think needed to be played right now. She's obviously made that announcement recently where she says that she's just going to put a pause on the touring because she's just exhausted by partly that and partly some interactions with fans and partly just I think what's been happening in the US and around the world. And I can only imagine the exhaustion trans people are feeling right now. And the performance felt like a kind of a howl of protest and rage and sadness with still a whole bunch of joy kind of shot through it and hope. The evening prayer. There was a version of Body Was Made, which if you listen to it on Perpetual Motion People, is just a kind of groovy, rock and roll-y kind of song. And then it was just darker and for such a time as this, it was very intense. The performance was amazing. I got a set list, which was really cool. And yeah, just what a privilege to be able to introduce her. And also I saw pictures of me on stage at Greenbelt and realized, good Lord, I've put on a lot of weight. I need to do something about that. So if anybody has any, things that don't make you want to take your own life for losing weight, do let me know. Yes, but that was my experience of the last 2 days, and I will now hand you over to Melky and to Laura and what they thought of the last day, Sunday.
So what else do we love about Greenbelt? Well, beer and hymns is maybe one of my favourite things to do of all time, really. It's just like the most delightful thing, and I just love the songs. I love doing a descant in the middle of summer. It gives me much joy. And it's just such a communal worship thing. And everyone loves it so much. And it just feels like you're like, it's one of those situations of like, oh, these are my people. Like, this is good. And I loved they had written a song specifically for beer and hymns called We Will Welcome in the Stranger, which is sung to the tune of Love Divine, All Love's Excelling, which was just beautiful. And along the process of when I often sing about Jesus's teachings, which I just thought was super fun. Like, what a great idea, and just really lovely. So that was a big highlight, and also just so lovely to see fans. Really, like after beer and hymn, so lovely to just kind of have a time to sit and chat with people. I got to hang out with Kezia, which was lovely, and other fans. It was just really cool. Well, yeah, it's cool that people listen. And obviously Ezra Furman was amazing. Seeing John T on stage was super fun. Just like so cool that you got the opportunity. And Ezra is just a phenomenal performer. She is just magnetic in her performing. It's so genuine. I think you could tell that she was quite nervous, and I think with the knowledge that she's going on pause of touring for a while after this, I think it really meant a lot, and it felt like she was doing the songs that she loved and that she hopefully felt loved by the audience there and was having a good time. So yeah, and was just a sweetheart, like packing up with everyone after the show had ended, and she was very kind and came down to the barrier and chatted to us, which was really lovely, and a load of other fans. So all in all, a good time and a good last night. It was beautiful.
My highlights on Sunday. Beer and Hymns was first up. Different engagement with it than John T and Laura. I think they were literally right in amongst it. The tent for the Jesus Arms isn't massive, but if you were in there, it was packed out, and then like it was just so busy. Further outside the tent was all packed with enthusiastic beer guzzling singers, and me and my wife arrived pretty late to it, and I was literally and metaphorically on the peripheries, you know, enjoying it. It was nice, it was lovely, but I also couldn't help but sit and kind of analyse all the lyrics and see where they sat with me now as my faith has evolved. But yeah, harmonies were great, you know, was nice to listen to. It was fabulous to meet up with Bare Christianity listeners, which is you people listening right now. I am not good at that either. I don't think I'm good. I get anxious in social situations with new people, I think. I do remember I met Jen and her friends who listen, which is wonderful. And one lovely bloke said, you look different to how I thought you would. And then I kind of looked blankly at him and said, okay. So, you know, that's that kind of interaction that you can look forward to if you get involved and come along next time. But it was genuinely great to meet people. Lovely to meet Kezia and a few other folks. Good times. Low-key was a genuine highlight of the weekend for me. Rapper from London, spelled Lowkey, not like that god of mischief that they have. I don't think there was any disgruntled Tom Hiddleston fans, but he was absolutely awesome. Amazing, like just radical lefty vibes. And I think his opening song was Free Palestine, and then went on to a track that criticises the arms industry, and just like really cool old school rap vibes, which is very up my street. Do yourself a favour, go and listen to Hand on Your Gun. It's a tune. And in a similar vein, after him, keeping up the rap vibes, was Charlie 2NA, which is one of my absolute favourites. So he was part of Jurassic 5. Go and look up Jurassic 5. They're just so sick. I mean, you might hate it, but that sort of kind of chilled out, groovy rap vibes. But that's set in the groove, you know what I mean? There's just an absolute... I mean, the man himself, it was just so cool. He's got like a deep voice, and just when he's talking, he sounds like he's rapping. He's just a very cool man. Go and listen to him and check out Jurassic 5 if you're not familiar. Also worth a little shout out, Ida May, husband and wife duo. They're English but very Nashville vibes, like bluesy rock. Very cool. My wife was a big fan. And then finally, climax of the weekend, sadly, Ezra Furman, and she was a bit shit. I'm joking. I just said that to make John Taylor very angry. I was less of a big fan, just less familiar going into that, but she was absolutely amazing, mental, and just like performed art on stage and wild, but really cool, and was just a lovely cool end to the weekend. That was just a lovely time with friends.
That's the thing, really. It is just a lovely time with friends. Like, I caught up with some people who I meant to catch up with last year, and some people who I catch up with every year I just didn't manage, and I'm probably going to only see next year, and that's kind of okay as well. Aki characteristically hard on himself about not being great at meeting fans or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. It was good times all around. I think probably just to finish off, just to say that I think Greenbelt is easily the best festival I can imagine. I would love to go to it if somebody described it to me. There's kind of like, there's a lot of hippie stuff in there. There's a very kind of punk rock ethos that seems to be kind of running through, like ribs through it. Every now and then you encounter this very kind of like punk, revolutionary, anti-establishment kind of thing. But there's also just activists and people who are making the world better, and people who are working really hard to make the world better in the ways that I want to see it better. A more inclusive world, a more just world, a world where the resources are shared more equitably, a world where we've got like people actually doing something about climate change and the systems that are causing it. A world where we have queer liberation and trans power and gay people who are not just tolerated but seen as the glorious reflections of God that they are. And all of this with this incredible Christian ethos. I don't know, Christian presence. It's not a very Christian festival. Like I said earlier, all of my non-Christian activist friends, I think, would have an incredible time there. It's an activism and justice festival. It's an incredibly queer festival. Very LGBTQIA+, friendly, affirming. It's so weird. Like, my mindset has been so kind of shifted by being there. Not in terms of like, oh, now I love gay people, but more just I expect to see non-binary and queer people kind of expressing themselves in the street, you know, because it's such a safe and welcoming and good space there. And of course you kind of look around, you're like, oh wait, this isn't actually that safe a space. And you can see more tenseness, more, if not fear, then at least discomfort and reticence and wariness here. Just, you know, here in Middle England versus Greenbelt. It's a wonderful festival. And I've spoken to some friends who were at David's Tent, which is the kind of 72-hour worship festival, which also sounds amazing and sounds really great. And I guess I wish there was something like that at Greenbelt, but with that very specific Greenbelt thing going on. Not because I think there's anything missing from it, but because those people, I think, could get so much out of it. Because what Greenbelt is doing and what its focus is now, its inclusion, its focus on justice, and the way it's focusing on justice is what the mainstream evangelical Christian festivals will be doing in 10 years' time. And they could be here now, I think. I think that's the thing. Greenbelt shows me what the church could be. And I think because I believe the Holy Spirit is guiding it, because I believe that God is still in control of the church, flawed as it is and filled with flawed and misguided people as it is, like myself, I still think that we end up tending towards the good. If I can see that in a kind of, you know, boutique mini mega church brand that just seems to by mistake head towards good ideology without being able to articulate it in those terms, when I see friends who were very much in a conservative evangelical space and would have been a few years ago saying, oh, I don't know about this, who have come to Greenbelt this year and had a wonderful time and said, oh, okay, this is actually a place where my kind of faith belongs. I just wish the rest of the church could get there sooner, you know, and that sounds arrogant and smug. And to be fair, those are my vibe, but that's not the vibe of the festival at all. There's things that are wrong, you know what I mean? Like, you know, checking in, always a horror show, but man, what a good space full of very good people who are wanting to do well. And I am hostile to and very nervous of and distrusting of groups, especially where people agree with each other. And I still found that a glorious example of the kingdom. And I just want to say thank you to the Greenbelt folks. If there's anybody listening who actually works at Greenbelt, that was a wonderful festival again. I feel like I experienced healing in a completely different way from last year. I feel like, yeah, it was good. Thank you and well done. And I didn't see half of it. I kept on looking at the pictures on social media and going, oh, I didn't see any of that fucking stuff. So, you know, like it's a whole world out there as well. It's like you're going to get the festival that maybe you need, maybe you want, maybe you deserve. I don't know. It was good times. So if you are considering it, I would strongly advise making a plan to go to Greenbelt in 2024. It is a good festival. It needs more good people at it. And we'd love to meet you there. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it for Beer Christianity. If it's the first time you're listening, you can find us at beerchristianity.co.uk. We've got lots of interesting stuff about art and justice and faith and politics, kind of like Greenbelt. And, yeah, you can find all of our stuff there. You can find us on social. We're on Insta. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. and you can email us at beerchristianity@yahoo.com to tell us your thoughts, or message us on Instagram. Tell us how you enjoyed Greenbelt, and if you have any thoughts on future things we can be covering. We're going to try really hard to get Grace Petrie on the show because we loved her so much, and we've got a few other people we saw at Greenbelt who we are thinking of getting in touch with, so listen here to find out more. And anyway, thanks for listening, and goodbye. Imagine the other two going goodbye.